Am I the asshole for keeping a jar of peanut butter specifically for setting mouse traps? I live in an old house, and it's filled with mice in the winter. Every winter, I have an intricate setup of mouse traps stashed throughout the house that I maintain. I check them at least twice daily and empty, and reload them as needed. I use peanut butter as bait. The mice love it. I have 6 traps hidden in the mouse hotspots. When I catch a mouse, I throw away the dead mouse and reload the trap with peanut butter. We used to have just 1 jar of peanut butter that my husband used for sandwiches. So if I had to fill 3 traps, I would use 3 different butter knives to fill them. I would take a clean knife, put peanut butter on it, put it on the trap, toss the knife in the sink. Then repeat with a new clean butter knife. But one day I found a jar of PB in the pantry that he hasn't used much of. I accidentally bought him one he didn't like, then I got him the one he did like. Now we have an extra jar he doesn't use. I said okay. This will be my mouse trap peanut butter. I asked him if I could use this for only mouse traps, and if it was okay it would be contaminated and not suitable for human use. I specifically said I would double or triple dip a butter knife used for a trap in it. He said it was fine, so that's what I've been doing. I labeled the lid and all sides of the jar saying, mouse only, and I've been dipping used butter knives in it when I load traps. It's much easier and less dishes. Recently he was eating a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and made a comment saying he didn't really like creamy peanut butter that much and preferred crunchy. I asked him if he used the creamy peanut butter. He said he did. I told him that was what I used for mouse traps, and I have double-dipped mouse trap knives in there. I asked why he used it. Now he is mad because he ate peanut butter that's been contaminated with mice. He says I should have moved it into a different container. I asked him if I could commandeer that jar for mice purposes only. He agreed. I also labeled it saying it was for mice traps only. And he still ate it. It was stored with some food, but in my defense that cabinet, that isn't only food. It contains medications for the cats, cat food, baggies, pan liners, etc. It's mainly used for emergency overflow of shelf-stable food, because we don't have much space. So am I the asshole for keeping a jar of peanut butter that's been contaminated with mouse traps? ETA. Again, we have a dirt crawl space under our house. Mice can and will dig to get into it because it's warm. That's how they get in, and we cannot afford to make it a concrete crawl space or something. Mice dig into dirt. I plugged as many holes as I can. I'd rather catch some in select spots in my house. But if I plugged up all the holes in the house, they still get into the walls from the crawl space. Not the asshole. If you eat peanut butter and then you realize that the jar says mice only, in big letters you simply need to gracefully accept that you have made an extremely silly mistake. It is not the fault of the person who took every reasonable step to make sure the peanut butter was clearly designated as being for mice. Not the asshole. It seems like your husband was stupid and is trying to blame you for it instead of owning up. Not the asshole. You clearly labeled the jar on all sides of the jar and on the lid. It's not your fault he chose to ignore the labels on all sides and on the lid. I used to live in a house with a dog. We had a regular jar of PB for the humans, and my dog had her own special dog peanut butter that was labeled for her. We did that for the same reasons as you double-dipping the butter knife onto the dog lick pad, and we didn't want cross-contamination. Not the asshole. I'm sorry, but this is significant other funny. I hope you can be reassured by these comments that you're not the asshole, so you can move on to enjoying how truly hilarious this was. You did everything right. You asked him and got his approval. You labeled the jar. Literally the only other thing I could think of for you to do is store the jar under the sink instead of in the pantry. But since your issue is feeful and friends running around, it's probably best you didn't do that. You're absolutely in the clear on this. Your husband is just a doof and has only himself to blame for this very amusing anecdote that I hope you will share at many family gatherings to come. After having several conversations and labeling and moving the jar, he's still eating the mouse peanut butter? Does he smoke and get the munchies so bad that he don't care what he eats? I just don't understand how or why he's still going after this jar. This is so dumb. Not the asshole, but my dad has repeatedly complained about the labeled dog peanut butter tasting funky, and once ate half a jar of sun butter, only to complain that it was terrible. Yes? It's sunflower seeds, not peanuts, and it was labeled with my name. Some people are absolute idiots about food. The good news is that he'll probably be okay from his mouse fluid sandwich. Am I the asshole for buying my nephew piano lessons for his birthday? I recently decided that I wanted to shift in buying experience presents instead of material gifts, as kids have so many toys it seems. Over the last couple years, every time my nephew, 6 years old, is at my house he always wants to play on my piano or requests that I play for him. I thought it might be nice for his birthday to buy him piano lessons for the year at our local conservatory. I asked his parents if they were okay with this, and I offered to drive him to and from lessons, as well as gave my extra keyboard for him to practice on. I made it clear to his parents that I didn't care if he wasn't interested past the year, but if he wanted to continue that I would continue to pay the tuition. It was more to provide that opportunity to him. He is the perfect age to start, and he genuinely seems to love music. Edit to say, they both said they were okay with this gift prior to be gifting it. Of course my nephew was thrilled when he got the gift. But after the party, I got a text from my SIL basically saying that I need to back off, and that I had no right to infringe on how they want to raise their child and dictate what programs they are involved in, and that if I want to put a child in music, I ought to have a child myself. She further went on to say that if I really cared about the rearing of their child and their wishes, that I would have purchased tuition to skating lessons as they want their boy to play hockey. I haven't yet responded because I don't know what to say. I am afraid of making things worse. I suppose in some sense, yes, I picked piano lessons because I myself am a musician and that is the world I am familiar with. But I also considered how much my nephew loves playing on the piano when he is over. And, yes, I knew that his parents wanted him to play hockey, because that is what they both played as kids. But I figured it wouldn't be a bad thing for him to have many opportunities to try different things. I mean, growing up, I did music, skating, swimming, ballet, field hockey, and all at fairly high levels. It was all part of being a well-rounded person. And further, I didn't want to take away the parents' special moment in signing him up for hockey/skating lessons themselves. IDK, I'm just wondering from other parents here if I've done something wrong. I don't have kids myself, so perhaps I have overstepped. I certainly wasn't trying to take something away from them or push their child into a path. I don't know where to go from here. Edit. Wow, there is a terrifying number of responses to this haha. Thank you all for taking the time to provide your thoughts. I wouldn't usually post, but I was so deeply hurt, I guess I was venting. For anyone curious, I'll update once I chat with my bro tonight. As promised, the update. I'm not going to impose judgment here, just relay a summary of the convo. Fellow Redditors can make of the conversation what they wish. I brought up the text my SIL sent me to my bro and expressed my confusion, as they had both given me consent. My brother did appear shocked at the message, and said that he did not know it had been sent. That said, he did guiltily admit that there had been some conversations between his wife and her parents and sisters about my gift, and that it wasn't an entirely kind convo. The general tone was, "You're allowing his aunt to pick his programming? Why aren't you putting him in what you want?" Along with snarky comments asking if it was bad form to whistle and bring cowbells to a recital, and that they are going to have to find pearls to wear. There were also some raised eyebrows about the cost of the gift when my SIL told them, and comments that it was over the top. My brother apologized to me for not stepping in when that conversation was going on, and for allowing the family to talk that way about me. He's generally a pretty quiet guy and non-confrontational. That's not an excuse, only to say that I can see him not saying anything. I told my brother that I don't want to cause problems for him and his family, and that if they want, we can reduce the number of lessons to just 6 to 8. It feels wrong to take the lessons away completely. My brother, who, while he was a high-level athlete through university, also played piano until he was 16, refused the reduction and said that he had no problem with a full year. He said his son has been talking about the lessons and keeps asking when they are starting. He agreed with my philosophy, or I suppose our family philosophy, that if you are going to try something, you should at least have the discipline to try it for an entire year. Anyway, I told him I don't want this to be a thing and that I'm happy to move on, as long as everyone else is still okay. Within a couple of hours of me getting home, my brother sent me the registration confirmation. For those who didn't see my other comments, I had transferred the parents the entire tuition amount, which had been accepted by them prior to the party, but they still had to fill out the registration form. He sent the confirmation in the group message between myself, his wife, and him. All he said after that was that his son will treasure this gift, which honestly makes up for the hurt and stomach pain I've had over this. It's crickets from my SIL, but I'ma let it go. We'll likely need to chat about it in person at some point, but maybe once things cool off a bit. Not the asshole. You asked, they agreed. Now what? They're changing their minds, why? What's really going on? That'd be my reply message. I asked you this, you agreed with it, now what has changed? Not the asshole. She's jealous that her son was so happy. I think your nephew is more interested in music than playing hockey. Your Sil doesn't like it, and so is blaming you. Not the asshole. As they want their boy to play hockey. Sounds like someone trying to live vicariously through their kid. Has the kid ever asked you to play hockey with him? Or does he ask you to play piano with him? To hell with what his mom wants. If both his parents played hockey, they should be able to teach him to skate on their own. The basics of skating at 6 years old don't require paid lessons, and playing piano doesn't prevent one from skating. Not the asshole. I just say, oh, I'm incredibly sorry. When you said you were okay with the gift, I assumed that meant you were okay with the gift. How would you like to proceed? Not the asshole. You sought their approval first. They said yes. Was there maybe some lack of communication between your nephew's parents? Otherwise their reaction is puzzling. Am I the asshole for calling my boyfriend absurd for being overly concerned about a coworker? I, 27F, have been with my boyfriend, 29M, for about 2 years. He works in tech. I do not, so I am only hearing this secondhand. Recently he started talking about a woman he works with. He went on and on about how people at his company treat her unfairly and assume she is incompetent. He kept saying she is extremely smart and great to work with, and that everyone else just doesn't see it. He then told me about a situation involving a code review. From what I understood, multiple people questioned or criticized her code, and according to him they were all wrong and she was right. He said later it was proven she had done the correct thing. While telling me this, he actually started crying, like tears and shaking voice. I honestly did not know how to react. It felt absurd. This is a tech company. There are multiple engineers reviewing code. It is really hard for me to believe that several people were all wrong and only he was right, especially when I am only hearing his version. It feels more likely that the situation was more nuanced than everyone else assumed she was stupid. I also found it concerning how emotionally invested he is in this woman's career. He talks about her like he is her personal defender. I get feeling bad if someone is treated unfairly, but crying over a coworker's code review feels excessive to me. It also does not help that this woman has a solid job in tech and probably makes more money than I do, so it is hard for me to see her as some helpless victim, yet he says she should be leveled higher. I told him that I thought he was being dramatic, and that it made me uncomfortable how intensely he was reacting. I also said that if multiple people on his team questioned her work, they probably were not all acting out of bias, and that maybe he is not seeing the full picture. He got very upset and accused me of being uncaring. Now he is hurt and says I do not respect his values. I feel like he is projecting and getting way too emotionally involved with a coworker. Am I the asshole for not believing his take on the situation and being weirded out that he cried over it? I think you're a touch jealous of her, and it's getting in the way of your feelings. Like if you knew she really was being mistreated solely because she's a woman, wouldn't you want a partner who would not stand for that? Who would be bothered by it? What if it was one of your girlfriends? Wouldn't you want him to stick up for her? My husband is like that, and he's the last guy who would ever cheat. He's just a kind human who knows a lot of men suck. Why do you not trust your man here? Soft, you are the asshole. You are the asshole. You don't know his field, how sexist it is. For all you know, this could be the first time he's witnessed such blatant misogyny. If you wanted to bring up the absurdity of the reaction, do it another time. And the fact you end your post saying that you find it hard to feel bad for her because of the money she probably makes? Ick. You are the asshole. You're being one of those people who can't handle men having emotions. Tech jobs are stressful. Something clearly got to your partner. He tried to talk to you about it, and now you're using it against him. Stop making it about you. This sort of thing absolutely happens in tech a lot. But his reaction is absolutely wild. Literal tears? Sounds like something is going on there with her, like he's got an emotional attachment, but the fact he cried over her signals more of a deeper mental health issue in my opinion. AITA. So many Redditters jump straight to accusations of being in love or cheating. Face with rolling eyes, face with rolling eyes. Your boyfriend is kind and empathetic. You should be happy that he's being like this, not weirded out. And he was crying because she's been getting mistreated, not because of the code. You're jealous of her. Stop it. Don't be too quick to jump to conclusions. It sounds like he could be quite stressed or depressed, which can produce much stronger reactions than might be normal. And tech can be a horribly sexist area to work. Maybe you should be more concerned about making sure he is okay. Am I the asshole for not allowing a coworker to come in and use my bathroom? I was giving a coworker some furniture, and a few people from work came to pick it up. I put everything out at the driveway prior to them getting there, and helped them load it up. One of my coworkers asked to use my bathroom, and I said no. That specific coworker is especially judgmental and talks about everyone. My house is somewhat of a fixer, and there are things that I want to change that I do not like about the house. I did not feel comfortable with her going in my house in fear of what she may say behind my back to anyone who would listen. Am I the asshole? This is one case I would have used an excuse. Not the asshole, but you're still going to be gossiped about. Sorry, no, my partner/child/relative has food poisoning. They've been in there all day. Sorry, no, I'm waiting on a plumber to fix it. Ick. Something. Everyone sucks here in my opinion. By trying to avoid one situation you don't want to deal with, you surely have created a new one now. Can you believe how she didn't even want me to use the bathroom when I really had to go? She'll definitely be talking about that one. Yikes, this is a tough situation. Do you really think you avoided the gossip machine? Didn't you just give this coworker fuel for office gossip by being so inhospitable? You aren't obligated to allow someone you don't trust into your home, so I will go not the asshole. It sounds like you didn't invite this coworker into the situation especially. More that your good deed for a different coworker ultimately resulted in judgy coworker being at your home. Just seems like it was a lose-lose situation. It's pretty sad that your work life is such that you have to worry about being talked about behind your back on the basis of your home being a fixer-upper. Going against the grain with ESH. She sucks because she's a judgmental gossip. And she's going to gossip about how you wouldn't let her go to the bathroom. You suck because when you gotta go, you gotta go. You could have just said, we're working on renovating, so the house is kind of a mess, or something similar. But they are definitely going to judge you now, and tell everyone at the office/work site about this. Not the asshole. If someone wants to be treated well, they shouldn't talk shit about other people.